Hello again, it's Dr. Jordan Taylor, Undergraduate Exercise Science Program Director and Associate Teaching Professor at the University of Kansas. It is important to perform preparatory exercises before engaging in vigorous physical activity or exercise. Preparatory exercises or movements are generally referred to as a warm-up. A warm-up and static stretching are not the same thing. Warming up is an activity that raises total body temperature as well as the temperature inside your muscles to prepare the body for vigorous exercise. As a result of increased temperature following warm-up, muscle flexibility is increased because muscle elasticity is dependent on the temperature of muscle tissue. Unfortunately, many people overlook a good warm-up and attempt to take shortcuts in the warm-up routine. This can translate to poor performance and increased injury risk. Most research indicates that the major benefits of warm-up are related to temperature-dependent physiological processes. An effective warm-up that elevates core body temperature does the following. 1. It increases blood flow to muscles. 2. It increases oxyhemoglobin dissociation, which means hemoglobin molecules in red blood cells are releasing more oxygen to the muscles for exercise. 3. It augments chemical reactions. 4. Increases connective tissue extensibility and joint range of motion. 5. It increases muscle elasticity. 6. Increases action potential, conduction velocity. 7. Increases twitch force of motor units. 8. Increases both the maximal velocity of muscle shortening and peak muscle power. And a general warm-up consists of basic activities requiring movement of the major muscle groups, such as jogging, cycling, or jumping rope. These activities cause increases in heart rate, blood flow, deep muscle temperature, respiration rate, viscosity of joint fluids, and light sweating. In contrast to a general warm-up, a more specific warm-up includes movements that are part of the activity or training session, such as slow jogging before going on a run, or squatting lighter loads before progressing to lifting heavier weights during a leg workout. A specific warm-up for athletes incorporates movements that are similar to the athlete's sport. It involves dynamic movements such as high knees, butt kicks, skips, leg swings, arm circles, walking lunges with a torso twist, lateral shuffling, and hip rotations. A warm-up should generally last between 5 to 15 minutes total, or just long enough for the individual to break into a light sweat. Compared to a less conditioned person, a well-conditioned individual usually requires a longer or more intense warm-up, or one that is both, to achieve an optimal level of body temperature. A proper warm-up should not create significant fatigue. Remember that the purpose of a warm-up is to help a person feel more physically and mentally prepared for a training session, practice, or game. If the person is fatigued following warm-up, performance will likely be hindered and injury risk may also be increased.
So before we get into the demonstration of the active warm-up today, I want to introduce Bonnie Lewis. She was a former KU exercise science student. She graduated back in 2018 with her Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science degree. She's also a NASM certified personal trainer and, looking at my notes to make sure I get this right, a Professional Skaters Association PSA rated figure skating coach. I didn't trip over my tongue. I'm proud of myself. So, just a few questions for you before we get into the demo. Tell us about your background in figure skating and what you're doing with your career since graduating from KU.
So I started figure skating about 20 years ago, and I did it competitively. Eventually I got injured and I switched over to ballet, and then I started coaching. At age 16, I was a junior coach, and then at 18, I became a private coach. And this was great to do during college. The flexibility was really awesome. And then when I graduated, I became a full-time figure skating coach.
All right. So just to give everybody an idea about kind of the demographic, who you work with, what are the ages of your students, and then where are you working out of?
So it's pretty broad. My youngest student right now is 3 years old, and my oldest is 40 years old. So they range, from, there's a wide age range, and they are recreational up to competitive. So there's really something for everyone to do, no matter what your goals are. and I coach at all of the local Kansas City rinks, Independence, where the Mavericks play, Casey, Icy, and Shawnee, and then Line Creek, north of the river.
Yeah, I'm sure working with those different ages, youth versus middle age, probably even older adults, it probably gives you a lot of variety, and there's different things that you've kind of got to focus on with those different age groups. So.
It never gets boring.
Right?
Yeah.
So in addition to your on-ice coaching, do you offer off-ice services, strength and conditioning, personal training for any of your students or clients?
Yeah, I for sure do. I think it's really, really beneficial, and I notice a difference from the skaters who do their off-ice and conditioning and the ones who don't. So with my private students, I encourage them to do once a week off-ice conditioning. I'll often, create a training program for them, and then I also teach ballet as well as personal train them.
Okay, great. And then how can people contact you for figure skating lessons or your off-ice strength and conditioning personal training sessions?
So the best way is through my email. It's coachbonniew@gmail.com.
All right. Before we get into our demonstration, our warm-up, can you kind of discuss what a typical warm-up consists of with your students?
So a lot of figure skating is jumping, so we want to think about incorporating a lot of plyometrics. We use your knees and ankles a ton, so we want to make sure that those are nicely warmed up and your heart rate is warm. So lots of jumping, lots of leg swings, hops to get you ready to warm up on the ice and then prevent injuries as well.
Right, like she mentioned, that's a big part of the warm-up is, a general warm-up. Get the core temperature up, get your intramuscular temperature up. That helps with the elasticity of the muscles. It helps with extensibility, joint range of motion. Muscles just become more pliable. Also, like you mentioned, injury prevention is huge. And a lot of times the warm-up is overlooked. And people really should focus on it so that their performance is optimized, no matter if it's on the ice, on the field, the court, or just if you're getting ready to do a vigorous training session in the gym. So very important part of an overall, conditioning, strength and conditioning program. So a few areas I want to talk about that you really should key on with most of your clients, athletes, whoever you're working with, that really need some attention during a warm-up. Number one, the ankles. A lot of people lack ankle dorsiflexion mobility. So ankle dorsiflexion is when the top of your foot is moving towards your shin, right? So a lot of people have a tight gastrocnemius and soleus, those calf muscles, and they really need to work on, mobilizing the ankle. So we're going to focus on that some in Bonnie's specific warm-up that she's got coming up. Hips, hip mobility. A lot of people have really tight hips. They have trouble hinging, getting their butt back. They have trouble with internal and external rotation. So again, abduction, adduction, a lot of issues with hip mobility. So that's another area to really focus on with your clients, your athletes, or yourself. Thoracic spine, right? So that's in the middle of the back. What I find is a lot of people are hypermobile. They have a lot of mobility through the lumbar spine, right? But they lack mobility in the thoracic spine, the mid-back. So we're going to work on that mid-back area there. And then shoulder stability and mobility issues, right? So again, another area that should be focused on during the warm-up. So we're going to go ahead. Bonnie has done about 5 minutes of jogging just to, again, get her heart rate up, respiratory rate up, get a good general increase in core temperature and intramuscular temperature. Now we're going to get into these specific warm-up exercises. So what we're going to start with is just standing T-spine rotations, right? So you can follow along with me. All right, so I'm going to grab my table here, slide this down because there's a lot of exercises to go through for this warm-up, so to make sure I get everything. So again, T-spine rotations, we're just working on that thoracic spine mobility like I talked about. So you're going to kind of form a triangle with your upper arm and your forearm, one hand on top of the other. Draw the belly button in, right? Tighten your abdominal muscles and focus on rotating right and left focus on the rotation by turning your chest, right? So turn your chest to the right, drive that elbow back, come back to center, turn the chest to the left, right? So you're leading with your chest. We're not doing this, right? That's going to work the lumbar spine. We're trying to brace here at the lumbar spine and mobilize that thoracic spine. So again, then you can kind of, we'll do maybe 5 more each side. Yeah, you can reach back and kind of look with your eyes and follow that arm back. And you notice how she's really using her chest to rotate. Try to keep your pelvic girdle pointed forward and just rotate. There you go at the chest. So a couple more each side. And we're good. So next thing, very simple, right? Think about with figure skating, arms are over the head. They're in a lot of different positions. So again, just some arm circles forward, small arm circles, right? We'll do this for 8 or 10 seconds. You can start to get bigger, right? As they start to get loosened up. Oh man, I really need to work on my shoulder mobility. This is terrible. And then backwards. So start with small circles backwards. And then bigger. Few more. All right, then just a chest opener, right? So we're going to start here, arms in front. Then we horizontally abduct. Remember these terms from kinesiology?
Yeah.
So we're working in this horizontal abduction and adduction, kind of short pumps, and then get bigger, right? Really bring them together, horizontally adduct and abduct, okay? Also getting some retraction and protraction of the shoulder blades and back. Again, warming up the chest, the upper back area. All right, next we're moving into cross-body arm swing. So again, loosening up the chest, the upper back, stretching out those rhomboids, middle trapezius. All right, so just crossing over, arm swings. Oh, that feels good. I really need to work on my mobility. I love to lift.
Feel that.
But you know, like I said, a lot of people overlook a warm-up, and I'm one of those, okay? Goalpost now. So we're going to start here like a goalpost, all right? Then we're going to abduct, reach up overhead, back down, internally rotate, externally rotate. Reach overhead. So we're abducting here, adducting, internal rotation, external rotation. Then you can go a little faster, right? Really get that, again, shoulder mobility.
It's like the YMCA.
Right. Do we need to do that? Is that part of the warm-up? I'm not doing it. I got to dress up first before I do that. I don't know which one I would be, but next then, we're going to go to the ground, all right? So we're going to get in what's called a push-up plus position, all right? So here we are. Make sure we got room. Okay, so good push-up position. Keep the abs tight. You know, don't let the pelvis sag. We don't want our butt up in the air, so nice straight line. Keep the elbows extended, all right? And what we're wanting to do here is retract. So I'm bringing my shoulder blades together and back, protract. Retract, protract, right? So again, she's staying extended at the elbow, right? She's spreading her shoulder blades apart and then letting them come together, retracting them, right? So again, warming up those rhomboids, middle trapezius, these muscles in the middle of the upper back. So a few more. Obviously, she's keeping her core tight, body's in a nice straight line, and good. All right, then we're going into quadruped T-spine rotation. So again, this is working on thoracic spine or T-spine mobility. So with quadruped position, quad meaning 4. You've got 4 points of contact, your knees and your hands, all right? You're going to put hand behind the head, all right? You're going to bring that elbow down towards the other arm, and then you're going to brace your core. We don't want to be like this. Actually, brace your core, neutral spine, and we want to work on looking away and rotating the chest away from the midline. And my thoracic spine is tight. So again, and then even follow with your eyes, follow that arm up if you can. There you go. See now how we're opening up? Yeah, follow your elbow with your eyes. There you go. And see how she's rotating through thoracic spine, but bracing and stabilizing the lumbar spine and the core there. So a few more on that side, and then we'll get the other arm, okay? because we got to work on rotation in the opposite direction, right?
I feel that one.
Might feel some cracking, some popping.
Yep.
You can start with a shorter range of motion, and then as you warm up, get bigger. So good. Next, we will stay in the quadruped position. So we're going to do cobras into a child's pose, okay? So again, quadruped. So here we go. Again, we don't want anterior pelvic tilt and this increased lordotic curve in the back, so brace your core. All right? And what we're going to do is then go into a cobra, right? So again, stretching the abs, the hip flexors, and then we're going to rock back, stick our butt back and set it on our calves. Keep our hands on the floor, elbows extended. All right? Then back into a cobra, right? Cobra, child's pose, cobra, child's pose. So we'll do maybe do 7, 8 of those. Rocking back and forth. So this again is dynamic. So again, kind of mobilizing, dynamic stretch of the latissimus dorsi. Abs, hip flexors there. All right, good. So again, a warm-up is not static stretching, right? There can be some dynamic stretching, but oftentimes people confuse a static stretch like I'm going to bend over and touch my toes and hold that for 30 to 60 seconds. You should do static stretching after a workout when your muscles are really warm. In fact, there's some data out there that indicates if you do static stretching prior to an athletic event, a hard training session in the gym, that actually reduces force production and power output because you're elongating those muscles, kind of relaxing them, and they just don't have as much tension and don't produce as much force. So again, a dynamic warm-up, there's some dynamic stretching involved, and you're trying to really increase intramuscular temperature and core temperature, but we're not focusing on static stretching, right? Where you're holding, again, a stretch like a quadricep stretch for 30 seconds, right? So next we're moving into quadruped hip extensions and fire hydrants. So we'll do about, maybe 10 of these for each leg. Again, there's not necessarily a set rep range, it's just you're trying to warm up these muscles. So again, quadruped position. All right, kind of dorsiflex. Go ahead and dorsiflex your ankle. There you go. And then keep the knee flexed. And then kick up and back. And slightly kind of externally rotate. There you go. Right, see how the toe is moving, it's pointed more laterally. So again, warming up, activating that glute. And then do the fire hydrant where you're going to kick out to the side. Right? And a few more back to the hip extensions on that same leg. Yep. A few fire hydrants. Getting those abductors, right? That's the gluteus medius and gluteus minimus on the side of the hip. Getting those warmed up. Of course, when she's hip extending, kicking back, that's gluteus maximus. So now we're going to the other leg. Looks like you're more mobile on your left side than your...
Yeah.
You have some issues with your right hip?
That's
I can
the
tell.
injured one.
So she's got, I could tell immediately, so she's got some issues with that hip, but so it's not going to look as perfect as like the other side, obviously, but you guys get the general, the idea of it, okay? So next then we'll go into supine frog pumps. Remember we talking about these earlier? Mm-hmm. These are great for activating the gluteus maximus, right? Which obviously is very important for figure skating, sprinting, vertical jumping, right? Performing various lower extremity exercises in the gym. So again, she's abducted at the hips, she's externally rotated, and what you want to do is before we do the first one, so you want to cue your client, your student, whoever you're working with, again, tighten the core, draw the belly button into the spine, kind of posteriorly rotate your pelvis underneath you so the tailbone moves underneath. Think about driving your lower back into the floor. Then squeeze your glutes and raise your hips up off the ground. Okay? So that's perfect. So we'll do about 8 10 of those. You can kind of quicken the pace as they get warm. You can probably really feel those, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, these are great. Couple more. I haven't been counting reps because I've got so many exercises to demonstrate that I just want to give you guys a variety to choose from. All right.
100.
Right. So next then is downward dog active calf dorsiflexion. It's a mouthful. Downward dog position. All right. So again, this is where, see how she's dorsiflexed at the ankle here, and then she's just going to kind of flex the knee. Yeah. Go into plantar flexion, up on the toes, then dorsiflexion. Right. Just alternating. Again, loosening up the gastrocnemius and the soleus. Those are the muscles that connect to the Achilles tendon, which obviously the Achilles tendon attaches to the heel, the calcaneus. All right, so again, ankle mobility, kind of some dynamic stretching here of the calves. All right, good. Next, we're going into inchworms. All right, so again, remember doing these? So
yep.
You start here, kind of like, you know, you're bending down to touch your toes, and then you're going to just inch your hands out, and then walk your legs up. Okay. So maybe do a few going this way. Yep. So, yep, and then walk your legs up. Yep. Good. All right, so next one to demonstrate after the inchworms is just body weight squats with the arms overhead. All right, so again, yep, arms overhead. Actually get it kind of like you're doing an overhead squat. So there you go, palms facing forward. All right, so we're just gonna do 10 of these, 12 of these, all right? So again, she's got good form. Keep your heels on the floor, really reach back with your hips. Chest is staying upright. All right, good. And then the next one that we're moving into are bootstrap squats. All right, so this is done basically, feet are going to be just underneath your hips, right? You're going to flex at the knees. We're hinging at the hip. All right, and then what you're going to do is while you're grabbing your toes and kind of pulling up on the toes, you're going to extend at the knee, and you're going to then raise your pelvis up. Okay, so it's going to provide a good stretch to the hamstrings. All right, so again, squatting, extending, squatting, extending at the knees. Okay, those are bootstrap squats. Okay. So again, little dynamic stretch of the hip extensors. So we'll do maybe 5 more of those. All right, then we're moving into just stationary lateral lunges, all right? So get your feet out wider than your hips, all right? Good position, keep your chest up. What we really want to focus on is hinging at the hip and then lunging out onto that leg. So you're going to get a good stretch through the adductors, adductor magnus, longus brevis, gracilis, all those adductor muscles, right? And then you're going to go to the other side, right? So again, keep your chest up. We're just alternating going back and forth, and you're hinging at the hip, okay? If you want to bring your hamstring into it more, you can externally rotate when you lunge. There you go. So that'll bring the hamstrings into it more. All right, a couple more each side. All right, good. Now we're going to get into more hip hinging, right? So there's a little hip hinging there with the lateral lunge. This is very simple. Here's the cues you tell your client, right? So, soft knees, right? Shoulder blades back, butt back, right? So soft knees, shoulder blades back, butt back, right? You're keeping your chest up. just hinging at the hips, right? So a lot of people, remember I said areas where people lack mobility, T-spine, hips, through the ankle. So again, this is helping people learn, again, to hip hinge as part of their warm-up, all right? So a few more of those. See how as she's moving her butt back, the knee angle is staying relatively constant, okay? Good. And then hip supermans. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have trouble with these. Like I said, I could really use a lot of mobility work. So the hip superman, so you're gonna do this each leg, right? So this is unilateral, it's really gonna challenge your balance. But what you're gonna do, stand up nice and tall, all right? As you go down, you're gonna bring your arms out, okay? So you can pause for a second, stabilize. All right, maybe I can show it sideways. I'm sure when I turn sideways now, I'm probably gonna fall over. But again, really grit, use your toes, grit the floor. Flex the knee, all right? Come down, right? God, I need to work on that. It's funny, you can be like really strong, which I'm strong. Need to work on my balance, my mobility some, so. Yeah, you can tell that one hip. And then what you can do, if you do a few of these each leg, is you can do the Superman with an airplane. And maybe on that hip that you have an issue with, we won't do it on that side, your right hip. But again, so you're going to go down into that Superman and then rotate externally and then rotate internally, okay? So a little more challenging. It's progressing that Superman. So, isn't that your bad hip though, the right side?
The left one's okay. This one?
Well, stand on your left leg because that's the one we're going to be rotating internally and externally on. Yeah. There you go. So then you're rotating and try to turn your pelvis in towards that leg and then away from the leg. Very difficult, isn't it? So yeah, it's, again, knee flexion. You're going to externally rotate and then try to internally rotate towards it. It's tough if you haven't done it, okay? Maybe you feel better on that side, even though it's the injured leg. All right, and then next, we'll get into, since we've done a lot of this, it's been stationary, we're going to get into more dynamic movements, okay? All right, so now warm-up exercises, we're kind of moving from the stationary ones to more dynamic movement in different planes. So we're going to start off with a walking quad pull, reaching the contralateral arm overhead, right? So staying nice and tall, getting kind of a little dynamic stretch of the quad, maybe the hip flexor if you really pull the leg back, right? Yeah, you can even go into like an RDL with it if you wanted to, like a single leg. Yeah. So again, a lot of ways that you can warm somebody up. All this just movement prep. All right, then we'll come back and we'll do walking hamstring scoops. All right, so flex at the hips, butt back, touch your stinky toes, kind of scoop through and throw water on your face. There you go, water on your face, yep. So again, good hamstring stretch. Pushing the hips back. Yep. She's pretty smooth. All right. Then next, we've got walking lunges. All right. And then I want to add a little dorsiflexion into this because, again, remember, like I said, a lot of times people lack that dorsiflexion mobility, right? Where the top of the foot is moving towards the shin. So on these walking lunges, when you lunge out, I want you to pause with the back knee about an inch off the ground and then just kind of translate or shift your weight forward. Keep that foot flat. There you go, and you're at a more acute shin angle, right? And then come back up, alternate legs, all right? And again, just kind of translate your weight forward. Squeeze your glute to push your weight forward. And then move more into dorsiflexion, right? So you can see how that shin angle changes, right? It's more vertical here, and then as she shifts her weight forward, you have a more acute angle, okay? Yep, good. So one more. All right, so that's your walking lunges with a dorsiflexion emphasis. All right, working on that ankle mobility. Now then, we're moving to walking lunges followed by hip flexion. So again, you're going to lunge out and then work on driving that knee up, all right, after you lunge. All right, so we're lunging out, bam, hip flexion, drive the knee up, opposite arm. You should go into shoulder flexion and elbow flexion, just like if you were, if you were sprinting. Good. All right. Then we are moving into walking, alternating, opposite knee hugs. All right. So again, this is going to stretch the glutes, the hip extensors. So you're just going to upright, nice and tall, right? Flex the hip, pull the knee in towards the chest. Oh my gosh, I'm so tight. This feels terrible.
This feels great.
I just need to do mobility work, and I just need to do this for like an hour every day. All right. Then walking leg cradles. So here's where you're going to stand tall. Now we're getting into the hip rotators. Right, so stand tall. You're going to externally rotate the hip, right? Standing tall, externally rotate the hip. Grab below the knee and pull the ankle and the lower leg in towards your body, right? Yeah, so pull up and in towards the body. This is a great kind of dynamic warm-up stretch for the piriformis. It's one of your hip external rotators. And what's interesting about the piriformis is it's an external rotator, meaning it rotates the hip outward when your leg or hip is extended. But if you move into flexion, it actually becomes an internal rotator, so that's why we stretch it externally. Okay. All right, so then we'll move into step over the fence walks. All right. So here you pretend that there's a barrier, right? So we're moving now laterally, all right, in this frontal or coronal plane. So you're going to pretend there's a barrier here, and with this lead leg, you're going to flex at the hip, horizontally abduct. My wire's getting in the way. Step over that imaginary barrier, and then with the trail leg, you're going to flex at the hip, adduct, and then put the foot back down. So it's going to look like this, right? That wire keeps getting in the way, right? So you're just stepping over this imaginary barrier, okay? So a couple more. You're almost to the stop. Right there. All right. Then we'll come back and we've got Frankenstein marches. So you know what these are? Yeah. Right? So obviously right hand to left leg. Oh man, hamstrings. Hamstrings. Too many hamstring injuries. I got too much scar tissue back there. I literally in my football playing days pulled each hamstring at least 5 times. So not fun. All right. Next then, now we're really getting into generating a little bit of ground reaction forces, kind of cranking things up. So we're going to work on A-skips, right? And when you bring the leg up, dorsiflex at the foot, yep. All right, so those are A-skips. So hip flexion, ankle dorsiflexion, driving that foot back into the ground, getting some ground reaction force there. After A-skips, then we're just going to go into high knees. My wire's going to get in the way, but again, just, okay. So high knees, that's the next part of it. We got to start further back. We keep getting closer and closer to the camera. So yeah, we got to start further back. But again, maybe run through the high knees one more time. There you go. Good arm action. Again, good mechanics. All right. Your hip flexors are shot. And then we're going to work on butt kicks, right? So again, Really using the hamstring, working on knee flexion there, but stretching the quads in the front. That's good, do it back. All right. Then now, a little more force production here into the ground. We're gonna do power skips for height. So we're gonna skip up, right? And then do them back. We might as well do them down and back, right? Power skips for height. So we're working on vertical propulsion, all right? Then power skips for distance. So now we're working on out, okay? So more horizontally focused, right? Trying to skip out. Then, good job. Then we are doing lateral shuffles. So we'll start facing this way. This wire is driving me nuts. But again, feet kind of right under your hips, good athletic stance. So flexing at the knees, butt back, and then we're just laterally shuffling, okay? And then coming back this way. So again, warming up the abductors, the adductors, those hip muscles. And I need to work on my cardiovascular fitness too because I'm breathing so heavy. Gosh. So many areas I need to work on outside of just lifting weights. All right. After lateral shuffles then, karaoke. So again, working on some hip adduction, horizontal adduction, all right? Some hip mobility here. So again, right? Karaoke's, okay? So one leg comes in front, then behind. In front, behind. And you can really, you can bring the leg that's adducting the knee lower, or you can really bring it up high. So if you really want to mobilize those hips. So there's a couple ways of doing that, okay? Then we have just a few more. So just some back pedals again. So this is working on extending the knees and the quadriceps. So you're gonna, again, hips back, feet right under you, and chest up, pumping your arms back and back pedaling, okay? Whoop. Bonnie's gonna run me over. She's a wild woman. All right, so after the back pedals, the next thing is just getting our feet, quick feet, all right? So we're gonna imagine there's a line here on the floor, and you just wanna get your feet moving forward and backward over it, okay? All right, good. Then we're moving into tuck jumps on command. So again, right here, get your feet chopping. When I say jump, so you're gonna, again, feet are gonna be chopping. When I say jump, jump and tuck the knees, okay? So now we're getting some CNS prep in there, getting that central nervous system firing, reacting to a command, right? So again, chopping the feet. When I say jump, jump and tuck the knees, okay? Jump. Chop, 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 jump. Jump. There we go. All right, so you get the general idea, all right? Now then, we're gonna do, again, that athletic stance, quick feet. And when I say jump, what I want you to do, so we're chopping. When I say jump, 180-degree twist in the air, okay? All right, so chopping feet, and then jump and twist. Stick the landing, jump, chop, 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 jump. Good, okay? I threw that in there because I was thinking, well, rotation, right? What do figure skaters, you're gonna be rotating in the air, things like that. So again, you're thinking about movements that mimic the specific sporting activity, right? And so that makes sense to incorporate that jump with a twist. Even though mine looked like crap, it's okay. I just want you to learn, get the general idea. All right, so almost done now then. We've got 3 things left. You're gonna make it, okay? I actually am starting to feel really warm. Got a light sweat going, which that's what you want in a warm up, a light sweat. Generally 15 minutes is gonna be adequate for somebody that's not as conditioned, but somebody that's more conditioned like Bonnie, they may need to do a longer warm-up, 20, 25 minutes. I know with Sporting Kansas City, I've seen their strength and conditioning coach warm up those soccer players for 40, 45 minutes, right? But they're highly conditioned athletes. They need a longer warm-up and they need it more intense than somebody that's non-conditioned. So now falling starts. So what we're going to do is stand up nice and tall. You're going to fall forward, catch yourself and sprint, okay? So again, feet together, feet together. All right, up nice and tall. So you can just stay flat-footed. So feet up nice and tall. So keep your body straight, right? You're wanting to lean and catch yourself, okay? See what I'm saying? Catch yourself with your ankle dorsiflexed. Dorsiflex that ankle, okay? Lean, catch, sprint. Okay. I'll only make you demonstrate that one once. You want to do it again?
That's good.
All right. Then lateral shuffles. See how we're making this? We're progressing things. So lateral shuffles for a ways. Then turn and sprint, okay? So lateral shuffles, drive off that back leg and sprint. And then do it back this way so that you're driving off the other leg, right? So now we're doing, nope, yeah, stay facing this way. Lateral shuffles, turn and sprint. And run through the wall. And trip over the equipment that's down here and injure yourself. And now Bonnie's not able to coach figure skating students anymore. Okay. Just what I need is to have you come in and do this demo and hurt yourself. All right. Then, last thing is to sprint down and back. But what I want you to do on the down phase, sprint about 5 yards, right? Sprint, break down. Sprint, break down, okay? So again, working on acceleration, deceleration. A lot of times when people get hurt is when they're decelerating. So that deceleration component is often overlooked, right? So again, sprint, break down in an athletic stance, and then sprint again, okay? Break down, sprint, and then she would break down again even though she ran off camera, okay? And basically that's it. That's what I have for a dynamic warm-up. Now, the last thing to mention is, you know, I gave a whole list of exercises. You wouldn't have to incorporate all of these into a warm-up. Again, you want it to last about 15 minutes. But there's no set standard, you know, dynamic active warm-up that you have to do. Just think about the movements that are in the sport or the activity that they're going to be doing, and then incorporate similar, you know, biomechanically similar movements into their warm-up, all right? So that they can train more efficiently, perform better in the game or the sport or their practice session, okay? And anything else? You got anything else to add?
I don't think so. That was great. Thank you so much.
All righty. Well, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
I hope this fitness facts video helped you understand the importance of performing an effective warm-up prior to a vigorous exercise session, practice, or a game. Thanks for watching.